All right, we're rolling, guys. We're rolling. We got today some white burgundy. Look at that. Saint Romain white burgundy from Clos du Moulin au Moin. Now, I don't usually have this kind of stuff. Nope. Chardonnay, 100% Chardonnay from Burgundy. I got to tell you guys, I'm a big sucker for Burgundy. I'm a big sucker for it. I love Burgundy. I love white Burgundy. I love red Burgundy. I know it can be a little cliched, but Burgundy is, look at this. It is the best wine in the world. It's the best wine in the world. Sorry. You got very delicate growing area, very marginal. And don't call me Scott Adams. Biggest insult I could get. Biggest insult I could get. No, I got nothing against Scott. I'm just teasing, just teasing. No, guys, Burgundy. Just want to tell you guys this real quick. Burgundy is an intersection of multiple different geological areas. France in general is like that. But Burgundy in particular, it's just got this, the soil there is limestone. It's southeast facing, but it's on the very edge of the wine growing area that you can possibly grow wine, and which gives it that really bright acidity. The wine is just incredible. Now, Saint Romain, I recommend it to you guys because Saint Romain is, it's from Côte de Beaune. It's a Burgundy appellation, but it's not super expensive, right? It's not super expensive for what you get in Burgundy. So I super recommend you look at things from Saint Romain, and also if you're looking for reds, I recommend Santanay. Those are both appellations. You know, I was thinking about this, guys, with the white wine, because I've been having white wine. I had a little bit of rosé. You know, I should probably have some red wine on this. It's just, this is white wine. We start off with white wine the night. So yeah, there we go. So you got some red wine. So I'll mix it up. I'll mix it up maybe one of these days. Next time I'm going to do an orange. Privately in Congress. Allegedly, a bill passed privately in Congress. I'm going to move because I'm getting connection issues. So let's see. That was allegedly published right before, signed by Bill Clinton in a secret session of Congress. This was apparently forced by the military. It had to do with basically the cabal's takeover of our economic system. And so they signed NESEA. The purpose of NESEA was in order to effectively give back economic control to the United States away from the Fed. All the information around those documents were apparently found in Building 7 in the World Trade Center, which, as you guys know, was destroyed on 9/11 along with the Twin Towers. And so people have talked about all the gold that was taken out of Building 7. People have also talked about all sorts of secret files. But apparently also within it was the copy for NESEA. So it abrogated basically it abrogated this thing that would have taken away the cabal's economic power. And that's an argument for why 9/11 happened. Do I know? Is that true? I don't know. I mean, obviously we're here because we're considering some pretty crazy stuff. But this is, so I don't know whether it happened or not. I don't know any of this stuff, right? I can't confirm it. But there has been, regardless of NESEA or GESEA, and GESEA, by the way, is the global version of this. There is an enormous amount of talk and indications that the Fed is going to be destroyed by Trump. Now, people, and that we're going to be basically getting some form of this. Now, maybe they're not going to reinitiate this alleged one that existed and was buried, but it's going to happen. And I knew it was going to happen. I presumed it was going to be in Trump's second term because you could hear him talking about the Fed and talking about how the Fed needs to do this, and he was seeding in the idea that the Fed was a problem. And when Trump does that stuff, it's never a coincidence when he does that kind of stuff. It's always seeding information into the public mind that the Fed was actually an issue. Now, there's a lot of people who think that we're going to come out of this, we're going to come out of here around Easter or May or whatever, and that Trump's going to destroy the Fed during this period. I do not think it's going to happen that fast. I think the destruction and the controlled demolition of our economy is going to take place over a period of months. I do think it will be resolved by the fall, mostly, but it's going to be happening. It's not going to happen in 2 weeks. You just can't do it in 2 weeks. What is happening now is the Fed is getting massively, massively discredited. And as other things come out in terms of the use of the Fed, I believe that that will give the impetus for it to happen. Actually, there's a pretty good chance that the Fed is already under Trump's control, and that it would be much easier to demolish it once you've already infiltrated it and taken it from the inside. But there's a lot of also crazy things going around about NESEA and JISIA. People talking about how all debts are going to be canceled and how everybody's going, if you have a good credit, you're going to get money and everything's going to be backed by gold and silver. I would be very cautious, guys, about believing this stuff and putting too much faith into it. The economic system is going to be restructured, and there is going to be some combination of the economy being backed on gold, silver / blockchain. And I don't know exactly how that's going to work out. I'm not even sure if they know exactly how it's going to work out yet. But the big thing is that this program is going to be funded by the cabal's assets, the cabal's money. So the cabal, if you guys have noticed, our country has been becoming bankrupted over the years. The entire world has become bankrupted over the years. Well, the petrodollar, you know, the U.S. is the new Atlantis, right? The U.S. is the center of all of this stuff in the world. So I'm probably misunderstanding the implication with that. But most of those wars weren't about oil; they were about other things which I'm not going to get into on this because it's I want to try to stay on topic here. So NESEA, the whole idea behind this is that we have about $23 trillion, $24 trillion in debt. And I tweeted about this the other day. We know that the cabal has around 30 trillion in assets, not including even property. Okay, 20. I'm using that term wrong. Assets. They have 30 trillion in bullion. That is the amount of money that they have taken, gold that they have taken around the world over years, and other things as well. So there's an enormous amount of money, currency, that's going to be confiscated from the cabal at the end of all this, and is going to be used to take the United States out of debt so that we are no longer in the situation that we're in right now. Some of that will go towards a stimulus plan for Americans, and the economic system will be fixed and it will become much, much more fair, because right now it's a predatory system. Everybody left and right agrees it's a predatory system. And during the quarantine, we're starting to realize how much bullshit the entire thing is, right? Because you have the Fed just printing trillions of dollars for banks. It's like everything is getting underlined what a scam this entire system is. So things are going to change, but most of it's going to be going towards paying off the debt and creating a new system. I do not think that there's going to be a debt jubilee. Although people who, if you notice that right now, interest loans for, yeah, I mean, we're not out of the woods yet, man. We're not out of the woods yet. It's the stimulus bill is not it's looking big picture. I understand it, and I understand where it's going. It doesn't matter in the end, but it's a big fucking joke. So what's next? What we got next here? So let's talk a little bit about Greenland and Antarctica. So one of the things I put on Twitter was that Greenland was going to be purchased by the United States, or that something not so nice was going to happen to Queen Beatrice of Denmark. I'm talking about Austin Steinberg. He's a guy who is claiming to be Q. Now, to understand this, just to make it clear for you guys, he's not claiming to be Q now. the idea here is that Q is a military intelligence operation, but it's actually operating. The messages of Q are coming from him in the future, and they were sent to him to inform people on this timeline and this period how they are supposed to interact with it. And this has to do with quantum computing. It's a very, very complex topic, although I actually do, having looked into quantum computing, find the plausibility of it credible, because it basically allows you to see multiple different timelines, multiple different outcomes, pretty much every outcome that you could possibly get. And well, basically with that you could, that you could in fact engage in a future timeline to get it's kind of complicated. I'm not going to explain it well. I'll try to explain it better. I'll try to organize it better for you guys in the future. But suffice to say that he's not claiming that he is Q right now. He's called baby Q, quote unquote, and they're coming to him from the future. So look, I don't is Austin Q? Is it 100%? Well, there's a lot of pretty good evidence about it. I don't know. Yeah, I've heard Trump is Q plus. Q plus. There's some different subgroup things referred to in different terms. I don't think it really matters that much at the moment. I think that what's important, though, I'm just going to make this point. I'm leaning towards Team Austin, and I did not. Q is a real person, but we are also all Q. So I don't know if that's really a clear answer with that. There's one person sending the messages, but is the operation only one person? No. So, but here's the thing. The people who have been attacking Austin and people who have supported Austin, they all immediately went against him when he showed up. I'm going to get to JFK Jr. They all immediately went against him when he showed up. And then they all attacked him with the exact same terminology, calling him a LARP. Okay? And it's very obvious that the Q movement has been infiltrated. Any movement would be infiltrated by the opponent. You're going to have people in there who are going to give you 80% truth and enough deception to turn you in a different direction. And I pay very, very close attention when somebody jumps into, when somebody's angle of attack, they all have the same angle of attack, and they're all attacking someone without even trying to look at the situation. I'm talking about Austin Steinberg, and he's a person who's claiming to be Q. Although really he's talking to that he is the past version. Q is coming from the future. Okay, so that is very suspicious to me. That is very, very suspicious to me, because whenever somebody is operating in that manner, that's a sign that they're trying coordinated attacks. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. B, they're also telling everybody, they're using guilt by association. They're using a lot of rhetoric to shame people in a group to not pay attention to somebody else. And that is something that is also, I pay very close attention to that, because when people are using your identity in a group to stop you from thinking in a certain direction, to stop you from following someone. Because it'd be one thing if they said, hey, thanks, guys. It'd be one thing if you look, they were like, well, look, I don't think Austin is cute for this reason. It's totally fine. It makes sense. And I think that there's some solid arguments about it. But if the approach is that this guy, like, don't listen to him. If you follow him, you can't follow my work. I'm going to block you, or you should unfollow me. That is really suspicious behavior. That is the signs of a sophisticated operation, or at the very least, people who are gatekeeping on a very basic level. So anyway, but Austin is the one who made this proof. And so I think a good indication, I mean, it's incontrovertible at this point that Austin is involved in the intelligence community. The question is he a good guy or he's a bad guy? I think he's very annoying. I think he's very cheesy. It's kind of cringy to listen to him in a lot of ways. But I don't detect, it's message over messenger, right? I'm not getting from him things that are false. I'm getting like an annoying messenger, but with good information. So I don't know who David Griffin is. So anyway, he talks about Greenland. And so what is the thing about Greenland? And well, I don't know exactly what the thing is with Greenland. There's pretty good evidence that the meteor that hit Earth 13,000 years ago and changed the trajectory of at least recent human history hit Greenland. There's pretty good evidence about that. But there's also something, and this is very connected to Antarctica, is that there are things on Antarctica. They are scripted. I agree with that. They are scripted. But I mean, if they have disclosure within them, including different timestamps and stuff. So it makes sense in that case. Green. Look, last thing on Austin. Again, I'm not trying to convince anyone about this. It's just really like just keep an open mind. That's all I'm gonna suggest because we don't really know yet. We don't really know, and if you just close your mind off to it, I think that you are. That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. So Antarctica has a Stargate. Okay, it has a Stargate, and there are other Stargates as well that are in military control at this point. But Antarctica has one of the main ones, and that is one of the reasons why there's all these research stations there, and it's one of the reasons why we are not really allowed to go onto the continent unless there's a scientist. You maybe heard a couple of years ago there was some incident where some scientists died on the base there. It's a very implausible event, right? That there was some sort of fire and they died, all sorts of weird stuff. A bug in my face. Um, that seems to indicate that there's some incident with the Stargate. So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Antarctica, but there's a reason that the Nazis, for instance, had a lot of interest down there. Admiral Byrd, you can look him up. This was I forget the name of the operation. You guys can look this up. It happened right after World War II, and it involved the naval fleet. United States naval fleet went to Antarctica. A lot of you guys don't know this. This is all like declassified stuff. A United States naval fleet went to Antarctica under the command of Admiral Byrd, and Byrd claimed that there were things out there that he saw, and then that was kind of all hushed up. He was hushed up, if you catch my drift. It was not like a normal mission. And so, talking about the Nazis, right? Um, so, the Cabal had their hands in all the different sides of World War II. America was the hardest one to kind of bring into it because Roosevelt basically had to bring America into it. Because remember, America was still mostly not in Cabal control. We had the Federal Reserve, but Roosevelt had to really pull America into Cabal influence. The Nazis, one of the reasons that their technology was so advanced is because they were actively working with uh, extraterrestrial beings, and they were getting a lot of their technology from this, basically, which is one of the reasons that we wanted to bring them other aspects of the Cabal didn't have access to at that point. Because remember, there's different factions. There have been factions for the last 100 or so years within the Cabal. As the Draco, for instance, have been leaving. Well, there's a lot of the basic stuff was just German engineering, but there were also, but a lot of there's a reason that we were trying to get all the scientists over here because there was other craft that we were not overtly, that were not necessarily used directly in the war, but we were aware of existed. And part of the reason for like the Nazi sort of bloodlust was because of these sort of sacrificial rituals in order to gain more power, right? In general, it wasn't just other people. So there's some interesting stuff in Antarctica, and I don't know, I haven't been there myself, but interesting stuff down there. Okay, but I want to take a little bit of a digression here. This is more like a PSA, all right? So it's easy when we think about these things, when we're talking about this Cabal battle, and that we would think of it like, they're bad, we're good, and we need to stop the bad people, and that this is this is a war, we're fighting a war. It's important to understand dimensions, and we have to thinking. And I was listening to an interesting mystic who's very clued on this on another way, Magenta Pixie. She's an English woman, and the way that she put it, I thought was just simply But thinking of it like a war ultimately makes you look at it like we are, like they're the bad guys, we're the good guys, or we're rescuing some victim, and this sort of triangle of like savior, victim, oppressor is a very third dimensional state. And if we are going to ascend into a different into this different timeline, like there's a lot of technology, guys, that has not been disclosed to the public, like really crazy technology that has not been disclosed to the public. And it has not been disclosed to the public because we are not at a consciousness level of being able to deal with that technology. Okay? It's really, really important. If we are going to get in a good timeline where we ascend and we go to the golden age, right? We are going to have to not look at this, respect what they're doing, respect them, not like respect them as like individuals, like, well, like, you know, I respect you, I respect what, but respect that they have power and that they had this role to play. We have to get out of this warlike mind. It's a war in the third dimension sense, but in a higher density sense, it just simply is two opposing forces against each other. So yeah, guys. Now, just a few little things before I take some questions, because this is a little bit of a slower cast today. I think that you guys are mostly starting to get the message, which is one of the reasons why intention is just to do this through some interesting phenomenons that came up. It is like light and darkness, and every time you have light, you're going to have it on. Because I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. So Bob Dylan recently put out a song, 17 minutes long. Okay, guys, remember, 33 is Cabal, Deep State, CIA, blah, blah, blah. Whenever you see 33, it's a sign of their doing. 17 is DIA, the Alliance, the White Hats, etc. Bob Dylan produces a song that's 17 minutes long about JFK's assassination. Very interesting timing for that. Very interesting timing about why that would be coming out right now. I just recently saw the Matthew McConaughey video from March 17th, which is pretty much confirmed in Q circles as the Green Day, put on St. Patrick's Day for a reason, because it was a sign of the commencing of some serious operations against the cabal. He was basically talking in coded language about green light stuff, and he was talking in very similar terminology as Trump against the war on the hidden enemy. So we have some interesting stuff coming up. Now, I was asked about Boris Johnson. Is Boris Johnson, because Boris Johnson was recently confirmed with coronavirus. And so what does that mean? Well, there are some interesting theories about Brexit and what Brexit actually meant. Obviously it would seem to be anti-cabal Brexit, and I think it maybe was mostly, but remember there's different factions, and they like to also segment assets. So Israel and Switzerland, for instance, are very, very big cabal states, but yet they're separated from the rest of things because it's good to have a place that's a little bit separated that can almost monitor from afar, right? Switzerland is where an enormous amount of the cabal's money is stored. So I've heard that United Kingdom is a very similar case in that it wasn't just that, you can look, I think, even with the different factions within Brexit, you can see someone like Nigel Farage seem pretty clearly not cabal. But was Boris Johnson? It was very unclear. It's a wild card player. Now, his coronavirus seems to indicate that, yeah, exactly, multiple headquarters. So it seems to indicate that maybe he was, but let's remember what we've talked about since we've been doing these periscopes is that hold everything lightly. Hold everything lightly because we don't know. There's a lot of disinformation out there, and it's possible that that's a signal that's trying to be sent that we don't understand exactly what's actually happening, right? Also, Rand Paul also had it. Not that I don't think it's implausible that Rand Paul could be cabal, but it's also, he's not the kind of candidate you would most likely think it would be. So let's just keep an open mind. Let's hold it lightly because things are going to play out. They're going to play out as they're going to play out. Now, last kind of thing to mention here is you guys were talking a lot about JFK Jr. and JFK Jr. Is he alive? I know there's a series called CABAL that talks about JFK Jr. being alive. From what I've heard in sources, JFK Jr. is not alive. That he is not alive. I have heard that he's not alive. Again, I don't have confirmation of that, but I'm sorry to disappoint. Seems as if they picked him off from the sources that I've heard, but who knows? Who knows? So anyway, with that, you guys can ask me some questions. I think Nick Hitton's a great guy. Yeah, I like Nick Hitton. He definitely knows. He definitely knows some stuff. Definitely knows some stuff. And I know that Nick, by the way, I know that he's aligned with some people who I'm not aligned with, but that's okay. I mean, men don't like get petty about that kind of stuff. We judge each other by individuals. Yeah. So any hidden tech that you're sure about? Sure is a. I'm not sure about anything. I'm not sure about anything. Well, first off, I'll just make this comment about Matthew. Matthew McConaughey seems like a good guy. Yeah, it seems like everything he was referencing was along the lines of Trump. He was talking about the hidden enemy and talking about green light. So remember these other celebrities. I put this on Twitter. I'm not so certain that they are not being forced to disclose a lot of these things in code. That show with Ellen really, I think, underlined it. That Alec Baldwin's there, and he's saying he's having like children touch Disney animals like genitals, Disney characters' genitals, and then you see at the very end that Ellen's tied up and she's jumping around. I mean, that's kind of weird for them to be able to script that on their own. I don't know how they could do it. It seems like they're being forced to disclose. This is a way of seeding the public so that they believe allegations against these individuals, is my guess. Because remember, most people are very, very asleep on these topics. So, but Matthew McConaughey, I can totally buy that he'd be a good guy. Again, who knows? Hold it lightly, but he always felt to me like he was not really into the dark stuff. I always got a pretty positive vibe about him. Now, some hidden tech that I'm sure about. Like I said, I'm not sure about anything, but I've heard about replicator technology. I've heard about free energy, which is very Tesla oriented. You are parts of the universe having a conscious experience, right? That is the main thing here. So the universe is quantum, and so when you daydream, what you're simply doing is you're imagining an alternative reality. That's what you're doing. Now, there's technology that allows you to take those sort of alternative realities and actually, if you're like, for instance, an ENTP likes to imagine different possibilities where things could go. Well, imagine that, but like a computer, or kind of not really even a computer, but it's able to really create precise directions about where things would go if this happened, right? It's not these sort of impressions, but your intuition in general. I mean, you have actually all the answers within, which is why I can get a little bit tedious with like people who are all about sources. Put your sources down. Put your sources. I mean, these are just people who just can't think. I'm not, and I'll be nuanced with this. It's not to say that you don't, if you want to learn more, and there's some aspect of like, well, trying to make sure that people aren't just like, is there some basis to what someone's saying? I get that. But the answers are within, really. I mean, a lot of this stuff is figuring out what resonates in discerning, taking the information, which is to say, hold it lightly and allow the truth of it to come out. And this is discernment on a really serious level. It's not, because you're not going to get the data to be able to analyze it. You actually already have the data inside your mind, it's within your pituitary gland is your antenna to the next dimension. So all of it is possible. All the answers are there. You just need to train yourself to be able to listen to them, because most of us we're too willing to block that stuff out. So the stuff of the tanks, I genuinely don't know. See, one of the things I talked about with the timeline episode last time is that there are different timelines that are competing right now. Now, a lot of the operations have been going on in tunnels. I don't know if some of that has to do with moving equipment out of tunnels or into tunnels, or probably not in, probably out. I don't know what it is. I don't know. But there is definitely a timeline that's trying to compete that has us going into martial law. There's a timeline that exists and that's trying to happen. And so one of the reasons that energetically a lot of us are getting fried and pulled one direction and another, like I woke up at 3 a.m. no reason last night, was, I've been having crazy, crazy dreams. It's literally, I put this on Twitter, it's literally every day I'm up between 3 and 5, or I'm up between like 8:30 and 9. And it doesn't matter when I go to bed, and it's really crazy. I've never had this happen to me in my life, to have this sort of variance day to day. And I'm getting bombarded with energetic blasts of things that are going on, and it's affecting it. Tons and tons of information is being processed, and so it's I don't know, but there's a competition for timelines, and when you see two different timelines competing for each other, you get this frayed energy where you have, on one hand, some people are feeling this reality. Some people right now are terrified, and they think everything is going to fall apart. They think the disease is going to kill millions and millions of people, and they think that the economy is going to completely collapse, and some of them even think this is going to be like the New World Order and it's going to be taken over. Others are pretty convinced that the virus isn't going to kill that many people. Maybe it's mostly even completely fake. I mean, I don't agree with that, but there are people who are on this completely other end of the spectrum. The economy is going to be fine. Everything's going to recover. And I think it's good to be positive, but we need to also acknowledge the reality of what is going on. So but remember, because the universe is quantum, what you believe in helps to manifest it. And this is one of the things with Trump. Trump doesn't look, he's always saying positive things. He's creating a lot of confidence. One of the reasons why it's so important a leader has confidence, which is you guys are leaders, right, in your own little circles. It's so important that you have this confidence and optimism, is because what you influence other people to believe impacts the outcome quantumly. That is a fact. That's how the universe works. So whenever you hear someone being weak, and that's why it's such a disgusting thing in a leader to have a weak, pessimistic leader. You can be realistic and mitigate things. You can charge into a conflict, but you can also be confident and positive about it while understanding that you have to fight. So I think a lot of this discrepancy is timeline stuff. We don't know exactly what's happening. Well, I don't know the exact significance of 33, but 3, 6, 9 are majestic numbers, and they are the backbone of consciousness in the universe, whereas the other numbers are part of the matrix that was created here. Now, I don't want to make too one-dimensional about this. 17 is that's for a numerologist, which I am not. But 3, 6, and 9 are very important. I would really recommend, and I'll do a podcast. I'll do one of these on Tesla at one point, really go into Tesla. But Tesla discovered the power of 3, 6, and 9. And one of the things of 3, 6, and 9, I mean, you always get back to 3, 6, and 9, no matter how it is the backbone of everything. Pyramids were aligned in 3, 6, and 9. It is connected to. If you're going to be praying for something, it's very powerful to have a group of 3 people to pray at 9 a.m. for 60 minutes, right? Because you're using those numbers. And this is stuff that I read this from Majestic, but it is a massive amplifier. And one of the reasons that Trump has been so successful and able to rise to this occasion is because he understood this stuff because of his uncle, the guardian of Tesla's records. And so Trump knew all about extraterrestrials, and he knew all about how the universe works, which is why he was able to manifest so much success. They will pay for the crimes against the children. When will they get exposed? Within the next year. I don't know the exact timeline, and some are going to talk and cooperate in exchange for not being killed, but Guantanamo Bay is open for them. Some are going to be executed. Some will be in. They did will come to the surface, and at least as much as the public can handle for now. Because remember, if we can't handle it, a lot of people are going to go into meltdown. about stuff that's going on. Like for instance, I mean, the level of corruption. I don't mean corruption financially. I mean, the Vatican is, for instance, extraordinarily connected to the cabal, like completely irredeemable. That's going to be tough for a lot of people. So yeah. Let's see. Yeah, we're all confident enough to speculate here. What's happening 401? I don't know, man. I don't know. But probably, I mean, if the 10 days of darkness are legit, it's going to start then, I bet, because it would make sense to start on April 1st and end on April 10th. I've heard a lot of people talk about that there will be some downtime with the internet. So if the internet goes down, make sure that you are really positive for your family and friends, and that you guys don't let anyone panic, that you spread hope, and that everyone's going to get through this. After Easter, man, I mean, from the timeline that I've heard, we are going to start to get disclosure. Like, I heard Podesta's arrests. We're going to get start. After that, it's going to be really trying to prime the public to the idea that there's a lot more going on here than just COVID. So yeah, it's going to be. I don't know the exact time frame though. I don't know the exact time frame. Everything will be disclosed as public opinion can be paced to disclose it. So again, one of the reasons I'm doing this stuff, it's fun to talk with you guys about it, but one of the reasons I'm doing it is because we need to have this awareness for people, so that when this stuff happens, there's less people who are panicking, because every one of you who's watching this is going to be like a light bringer for your, or like a truth teller for your circle. Do I think adrenochrome and the cabal will be disclosed publicly at some point in the near future? As I just said above, 100%, 100%. But not everything will be disclosed, and also not everything that will be disclosed will be understood by the public. That's important. No one is good in Hollywood. I do not believe that. There's always good people in places. Everybody in Hollywood in the higher levels may know what's going on. They may not have enjoyed it. They may not have liked it. They may have stayed silent because they knew they couldn't do anything about it. It's true with a lot of politicians. Don't underestimate the power of fear in the boot on your neck. You don't have to engage with it to, just because you're not guilty in these circumstances just because you knew and you did nothing. There's a lot of people who tried and they should be honored, but they were killed almost always. In every situation, they were killed or their reputation was somehow destroyed. That they suicided themselves, right? We can't judge people. When the time came for things to go out, there were ones who stepped forward to write on them. Ricky Gervais is a great example of that. Ricky Gervais, during the Golden Globes Award, literally said to Hollywood, he said, "You guys are fucked. You sick fucks. You guys are done. And I'm going to stop, and I'm not working with you anymore on anything. And I look forward to you guys getting screwed after all the terrible things you've done." And you better believe all those people are going to the DIA, going to the Alliance. They are providing testimonials about things that they were invited to. I have friends who are involved with that stuff, involved in the industry, who have had these propositions. It's real. It's real, and there are plenty who are going to step up and speak about it. Hollywood, as a result, though, will be rebuilt, because there are people in it who are not like that, and there is talent, but it's been a lot of good projects have been suppressed by the cabal because it's mostly a social engineering propaganda outfit. Who are my best sources? Well, I've said this before. I think that Majestic 12 is an extraordinarily credible source. I've heard this, but from multiple areas. It resonates very, very deeply with me. I think that Magenta Pixie is also very good. Aside from that, I mean, those are two that come to mind. I can't even tell you how much stuff I read and watch. I'm sent things from so many different corners, from so many different people. Unfortunately, if you want to get like a good cataloging, and ENTP is not a really good idea for it. I'm really more of a synthesizer. So I'm taking all these different things I get from different locations, and it becomes some sort of pattern that I put out there. Uh, so the main thing I recommend for you guys is to really be curious about topics I mention here, and just go and look on your own, and feel free to DM me. I love it. I love it. I love when you guys DMing me. You guys, I've been getting some really amazing information from you guys in recent weeks, things I've missed, and I appreciate it. I love you guys all. Love all you guys. How could you profit from predictions? Well, I told you so is kind of stupid in low vibration. I mean, I'm gonna do a little bit of it just because I have people who are trashing me because I say this stuff. Less so now. I think they've mostly just left. But to the extent I'm going to even take any of that angle, it's just going to be brief to let people remind people that I was saying it. And the only reason I'm doing that is because and remember what I've been saying this entire time, okay? First, remember what I've been saying this entire time is use your own discernment. Don't take anything I'm saying at face value. I'm here to stimulate your thought patterns and imaginations, to give you some awareness of things that I've looked at. I'm not an arbiter of truth on any of these topics. I would never tell you to not look at this person or this person. I'll tell you what I think about them, but it's up to you. But the point of all of this is that my, well, I was going to say my hope is that, you know, as my discernment in this area proves to be directionally correct, that people are going to understand that I'm able to leverage that skill very much in their own relationships, really get to the core of what's going on in the situation. And I have much more expertise in dating and relationship than this. I mean, but I'm using the same tool to cut through a different object, so to speak. But I mean, honestly, but the real reason I'm doing it is because I was called to do it. And that's just it. I mean, I fought to get into the world. I know that from my family story, and I'm here to be here for this moment, and I'm here to disclose things from my cluster, and my cluster has been blessed to be large because of the internet, and so I'm not. I don't know how to describe it for people who don't have this sort of intuitive connection with God, but it is just simply something that I knew that I had to do. So I have faith that it'll be okay for me, and that's just the way it is. All information is within. Correct. I think that what I do, so trying to intro family and friends to some of these things gradually has been difficult. So I can do this with my wife is fine with it. I mean, she's interested. It freaks her out, but she's interested. My mom is more freaked out, but she's open on most things. My dad is very closed off to hearing a lot of it, but he does hear it because he trusts my guidance. He compartmentalizes it. Other people, but they all support Trump. So people who are outside of that have a harder time even listening to any of it for now. But what I do is I seed little information about, someone makes a comment about, oh, this celebrity has it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's amazing how many celebrities and politicians have it. I just throw these little seeds and kernels out there because when stuff starts to come together, then they will come to me and they're going to be like, okay, what's going on? And I've had that happen a couple of times now already with people who are further along in the process. And they're like, oh my God, what do you like? Okay, wait, what does this mean? Like, what is this whole thing with the cabal? It's like when I've been saying, oh yeah, well, it's actually the cabal happening. I don't elaborate. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's like, if you're interested, I can tell you more about it, but whatever. Like, I don't try to push. People don't want to hear it. You just hit their ego and you have to check your own ego. Everybody will, if they are destined to do it, will come to the truth in this lifetime. They will do it or they will not. And they'll recycle out basically at the end. But you can't force the timeline. You can just let them know that you're a place that they can go to. I will check out Dev's hints. I'm not familiar with any of it. I love it, INFJs. Kindred spirits. I don't know who Vadim Zealand is. You can DM me on Twitter and let me know. Yes, God his father. God his father who was his connection to source in the higher dimensions. I am nothing without my Father. This is why it's important to pray to when you pray to God, you're praying to this higher part of you, which is God. And from there, that is how you get access to love and to light and to the universe. Sacred geometry, yep. So I talked about earthquakes and volcanoes connected to the CABAL. I don't know about that. The earthquakes, I mean, the number of earthquakes that are happening are 100% connected to the 100% connected to the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases, which are extraordinarily substantial across the country and the world. Denver was supposed to be the second capital of the United States when World War III was struck after Hillary became elected. Massive structure underneath Denver, bigger than the city itself. Actually, if you go to if you check out, there's a bunker underneath of it, but it's not just one layer. It's very deep. Killed depends how much he says. Anyone who says they know is lying to you, being charged. But a lot of times when it comes to prosecution, and we're going to try to do this cleanly because we want to. Part of ascending to the fifth dimension is not simply just going through vengeance. Said, by the way, guys, a lot of people right now, it's a very hard time, and a lot of them are falling. Someone of hope for others, because sin is a bad thing, because when you kill yourself, you recycle at a much lower position. It's like quitting the game without the challenge. People who, if you kill yourself, you are starting over in a worse position. So please stop people from doing that. Please, if you know someone's depressed and rough in this period, go reach out, be loving to them, help them out if you can. Just give them a call on the phone, check in on them, let them know that they're loved. So I'm going to answer one more here. I'm just going to move through. Blah. A lot of the population is going to stay in complete denial. I don't know how many, but a lot. But we'll mostly get it. The anti-Trump stuff will eventually shift. You only need to get to a certain critical mass of people before stuff changes. I mean, that's what happens. You get to a certain critical mass of people, and because most people are herd animals. So if the majority believe in this stuff, or a significant plurality will then flip the majority, which is why to change the world, you only need a handful of devoted, dedicated men to make the change. So, all right, guys, I will see you later. Appreciate it. I gotta run.